Everyone, welcome you all to the Applications Manager free training series. Let's get into the today's agenda. In today's agenda, we first topic will be discussing on track performance across your cloud application, and second topic will be discussing on how to gain end-to-end visibility in your serverless application, and in third topic we will discuss regarding how to track the critical KPIs across your container orchestration platform. And in the last topic, you will be discussing how we can address the performance issues on your cloud environment. Let's start the today's topic. So in recent days, we could see like new technologies introduced day by day, and we are starting adapting to the cloud. And we could see like 90% of enterprise users are started adapting to the cloud technology, whereas we could see the current market value is around $6 billion, $600 billion, and the estimated market value near 2025 will be around $833 billion. So why we are starting adapting to cloud? So for better scalability, cost saving, and for faster deployment and for security. And also you might know like cloud services are located throughout the globe, that is the data centers, so that you can just expand your business to serve more customers in different regions as well. So when we just start adapting to these technologies, we need to just make sure and we need to track the performance of those cloud applications. So that is how we are planning to discuss on the first topic. So in Applications Manager, we do monitor the Amazon Web Service, Azure Cloud, Oracle Cloud, Office 365, and Google Cloud. So these are all the few technologies we do monitor in Applications Manager. And when it comes to the cloud or the container in Applications Manager for monitoring, so as you might know, like Applications Manager is an agentless monitoring tool. So with the help of the metric aggregator, we'll be fetching the information from the CloudWatch. So CloudWatch is from for the Amazon Web Service. So from the AWS, we'll be fetching the information only through the CloudWatch. Okay? And for the Azure, we'll be fetching from Azure Monitor. So likewise, we'll be using different API request method for fetching the information from the different cloud technology. So once this metric aggregator fetch all the information, it will send to the fault management. So in this fault management phase, from the information which we collected from the cloud, it will just check if there is any service which is down on a particular cloud, or in case if there is any critical incident has been occurred based on a threshold we configured. So whenever these kind of incident or the down alerts are identified in this fault management, so either it will be notified you with the help of the email action, or in case if you are associated the ticket management, so the new ticket will get raised on your particular help desk. So this is the first phase which will be happening on fault management. So and also the information which we fetch from the cloud, the metric aggregator will push all those information to the database for the reporting and analytics. So this is how we'll be monitoring the cloud application and also alerting, and also you can refer the reports for the respective attributes. And when it comes to the Amazon Web Service monitoring, so these are all the few services currently we are supporting. In compute, we do support the EC2, Lambda, EBS, and in container, we monitor ECS, EKS, and in load balancing, we support ELB, and for the SNS for the notification, SQS for the queue, and billing for the accounting. So these are all the services. And as I said, like for each and every instance or the services, we'll be using a set of APIs to fetch the information. So if you could see here, so we are just fetching the information from the Amazon CloudWatch for the various services that are hosted on the Amazon. And when it comes to the Azure monitoring, so in Azure, we do support the virtual machine monitoring, Azure Service Bus, SQL databases, and in recent release, we have introduced the new service monitoring, that is Azure PG SQL database also is currently monitored with the help of Applications Manager, and we do support storage accounts and Kubernetes service as well. And when it comes to the Azure, like we are using the API method for fetching the information, and for virtual machine, will be using the API port and along with the PowerShell ports as well. So since this is a virtual machine, we'll be fetching the server level metrics like CPU, memory, and other information. So we are using additional port, that is PowerShell, to fetch the information. And also in the SQL database as well, we will be using JDBC port. That is by default port 1433 will be used. So in this particular SQL database, we'll be fetching the query related information. And in the Kubernetes, when it comes to the Kubernetes, we'll be using the API and also the kubectl command with the help of the API to fetch the information. So this is how the discovery and data collection will happens for the cloud applications. So let me just take you to the UI and show how we are going to discover. So if you want to onboard Azure Monitor, so you can just click on new monitor, add new monitor and applications manager page. And here in the left hand side, we have just categorized the respective monitor types here. So under, if you just click the cloud apps, under the cloud apps, you can see the Microsoft Azure. So once you just click on the Microsoft Azure, in this page, you can view the list of prerequisites that you need to perform. So when it comes to the prerequisite, so you need to just make sure you have the tenant ID, client ID, and client secret for registering and monitoring the list of services. So once you have all these information, you can just click on Add Microsoft Azure Monitor. So once you just click that, you will be giving a display name. So this is for your reference. You can just give any name for identifying the respective Azure or the tenant, and you'll be giving the subscription ID. And in the Azure services, by default, we will list all the services that we do support. So in case if you don't want to monitor a service bus, you can just remove that particular service in this particular Azure service list. So that while discovering the Azure monitor, this particular service bus will not get discovered. So once you just selected these Azure services in the account type, you'll be selecting whether it's a global account or it's a government cloud. And you'll be discussing, you'll be enabling the discovery mode as well. So based on that, it will add the respective services under the Microsoft Azure. So same like that, if you want to discover the Amazon, so here we'll be giving the, you need to follow the prerequisite first and then click on add AWS monitor. And here same like the Azure monitor, here it will list down all the Amazon services. You need to select or you can just disable the services. And here you need to select the account type, whether it is an global or account or it's a specific region or it's a government account cloud. So once the account type is selected, you'll need to select the region. So once that is done, you can just enable whether you want to discover all the services which is posted under that, or in case if you want to monitor only the status alone. So you can just select those conditions in the child discovery. And in the advanced settings, we have just given an option here, that is action on deleted resources. So what this particular attribute will do here is like, so in case if you have like more number of EC2 instance in your AWS, and if a particular your team is just removing few of the EC2 from the AWS list. So during those scenarios, whether you want to continue monitoring that particular resource or stop only the alerts or unmanage the resource, or you want to delete. So whenever if you're removing the EC2, whether you want to delete that same in the applications manager, so you can just select any one of these option. And also like if you have like more number of EC2, you can just filter those EC2 instances with the help of the regex condition. So you can just give the regex condition based on that this particular discovery takes place, and only the given condition which is getting matched for the respective EC2 alone will get discovered in this phase. And once you just click on add monitor, so what will happen? The Amazon monitor will get added. And when you just go to the Amazon monitor, each services that we have just selected during the add monitor phase, so those services will be discovered here. So when you just click on the compute, you can see the list of EC2 instances that are currently running, the Lambda and the Elastic Bean as well. And if you just go to the SNS service, that this is the notification service. So here you can view the SNS usage, like how many messages got published on with the help of this particular service, like number of notification delivered in case if there is any failed. So you can just select these, like you can just view all those numbers here. And also you can view like where in which particular region the notification is majorly getting failed. So based on the values which we are fetching, for all these values, you can also configure the alarms. So in case if the notification failed ratio is getting high, so during those scenarios, you can just configure the alert for the respective region. And in case if the same issue happens again on the same region, the alert will be automatically triggered in the applications manager. And when it comes to the EC2, so under the compute, so you're seeing the overall view here. So in case if you want to drill down to each EC2 and view that, you can just click on those EC2 instance here, and you can view the overview page. You can view the CPU utilization, and the OS level metrics. You can view the memory, available memory, and the disk utilization on that particular EC2 instance. And for all these same, the behavior is for all in the applications manager. The metrics that you're seeing on the UI, for most of the metrics, we have an option that is configure alarm app option. So that if something goes wrong, some like you can just set a baseline. So based on the baseline, if it is goes wrong, automatically alert will get triggered. And the attached volumes, you can view the list of volumes that have been mapped with this EC2. So these are all the few services that we see under the Amazon. And also when it comes to the cloud, so you might know that like we do in cloud, we do monitor the Office 365 package. So you can let me just open that Microsoft 365. So in this Microsoft 365, like previously we were using the PowerShell mode of data collection, but in the recent versions, we do support the Graph API. So why we have switched from PowerShell to Graph API here is like for the better performance. So in case if you are having, if you just take the Exchange server, if you have like huge number of mailboxes on your environment, so if you just use the PowerShell mode, we are, in few cases we are getting timed out. To enhance the monitoring, we are just adapted to the Graph API, which is uh, given by the Microsoft. So these Graph APIs are supported from Microsoft only. So if I just go to the particular exchange, I can view all the information like when the previously the failure has occurred on this particular exchange, and you can also monitor the endpoint connectivity so that if something goes wrong or something goes down, you will be get notified. So this is the Office 365. So not only for Exchange, so for other packages like SharePoint or the Microsoft Teams, so every information can be monitored with the help of Applications Manager. Let's get to the next topic on the schedule. So the next topic on the agenda will be discussing regarding how to gain end-to-end visibility in your serverless application. So when I just talk the serverless or application, like so as you might know, like there are two types of architecture when it comes to an application. One is monolithic architecture, and another one is microservice architecture. So what is this monolithic architecture? So just imagine you have three different web applications that is hosted on the same server and hosted on the same application server as well. So in some cases, if you want to restart a particular application server, so what will happen? All the three application which is hosted on the same application server will also get affected during this restart. So this is an old school approach. So nowadays we are started adapting to the microservice architecture. So in this microservice architecture, like each application will have its own microservice. So in case if the in case if you are making any change on a particular application, so instead of doing the application server restart, you can restart only the respective microservice which belongs to the respective application. So once this is done, like the application will be up and running. So you cannot see where the application server is running or which particular server. Everything will be handled within the same architecture. So that is how this particular serverless monitoring also will works. So and when it comes to the end-to-end monitoring, so you may aware like in the second schedule on the current training series, like our expert has discussed regarding the APM Insight. So for the cloud as well, yes, we do support the APM Insight. That is the end-to-end performance monitoring for a particular cloud application. So in case if you are hosted several applications on the Amazon AWS Beanstalk, so we can deploy the agents based on the application type. So once the agent deployed on a particular Beanstalk, so it will collect all the application data and push to the applications manager. So what kind of data it is going to push? It will push all the transactions that have been performed on a respective application. So when a user is accessing require the backend transaction. That is, we'll be updating something on a database. So those kind of database transaction also will get captured, and the query which the application is using, those kind of query information also can be viewed in the UI. So with the help of this end-to-end transaction monitoring, you can identify the complete end-to-end transaction that user is accessing. If something goes wrong in between, with the help of this APM insight, you can easily identify what kind of issue and in which particular piece of code the issue is getting occurred. So those can be identified with the help of the APM insight and with the help of the service map. Service map is kind of a feature which is available within the APM insight. So in this service map, you can view like what are all the components that have been used by the respective application. So for the HTTP server or for the backend or it's a middleware, so those kind of information can be viewed under this service map. So I will just uh, discuss these information in the UI next. And when it comes to the serverless monitoring, as you know, like it is the AWS is supporting the AWS Lambda. What is this Lambda? So previously we discussed regarding the microservice architecture where each application have its own microservice. Same like that in the Amazon, like for example, you are going to develop an application, you have a code ready in your hand. So you need either a compiler to just compile the particular piece of code, and you need a web server to just host the particular application. So instead of doing each phases, so AWS given this option, that is AWS Lambda. So only thing you need to do is you just need to copy your code and post it on the AWS Lambda. So once you just posted, automatically the compiler, the application server, or the web server, everything will be generated by the AWS Lambda, and it will just give the URL for your application. So once you have the URL, that URL will be used by the any of the users across your globe. So each application is called a functions in AWS Lambda. So you can just like you can have multiple functions within the AWS Lambda, and applications manager will monitor all those functions. Function is nothing but the application which we deployed on the AWS Lambda. So all those functions will be monitored in the applications manager, and in applications manager we monitor like how many times it got failed or how many times it got executed, how many concurrent execution has occurred. So those information will be seen on the applications manager. Let me just take you to the UI. So as I mentioned, like in the with the help of the APM insight, so let me just want to add a monitor. So you need to select like what kind of application that you have deployed on your Beanstack. So for example, if it is a Java based application, you'll be clicking on Java agent here. And once you just click in the supported application service, you can view that you can deploy the agent on AWS Elastic Beans Search. If it is an Azure web application, in these cloud applications, you can deploy this particular APM Insight agent. So once the agent is get deployed, it will track all the transactions that have been performed on your cloud application. So for example, let's take this your cloud application. In this, under the transaction tab, you can view all the transactions that have been performed on your application. And in case if there is any error, you can just go to the error tab and view the list of error. And here it will drill down and take you to the particular piece of component where the issue is getting occurred. In which particular method this particular error is happening. So those kind of information will be given by this APM Insight. And in case if there is any database calls happen on your application, so those will be listed here. And based on the operation, whether it is select, update, or insert, those information can be viewed. And in the service map, as I mentioned, here you can view the list of components that have been used by your application, like HTTP server, backend, or the middleware. So those kind of information can be viewed with the help of this service map. This is how the end-to-end transaction monitoring can be achieved. And when it comes to the serverless monitoring, so again, I'm just going to the Amazon monitor type. So under this Amazon monitor type, so under compute, we have the AWS Lambda here. So you can see this function. Function is an application. So you can view the application, like what kind of runtime it is using, the code size which you have deployed, and the timeout we have configured. And in case if you're modifying the code, so those information can be viewed here. And if something goes wrong, the health will get affected, you will be get notified. So here you can drill down to each functions, each of your application which you deployed. And here you can view like how many times the invocation happened. And during the invocation, however, like if you are getting any failed invocations, and you can see the invocation rate here. And also if there is any concurrent execution, you can view those information here as well. And in case with the help of this provisioned concurrency, you can just avoid the rate. For example, so because since like what are the operations that you are doing on the cloud, everything will be uh, uh, based on the cost. So you can just set a baseline for that so that it will not cross the respective provision that which set for this concurrent execution. So in case if it is about to cross, you will get notified. And also like you can see the duration of your application which got executed, average, min, and max. And you can also view the age and the delivery failures here. So with the help of this, you can monitor all the applications which are hosted on the AWS Lambda. And in the configuration page, you can view like how many memory you are allocated for a particular application, and the deployment code size and the timeout as well. So all the information can be viewed with the help of the applications manager. Now let's move on to the next topic. The next topic we'll be discussing regarding how to track critical KPIs across your container orchestration platform. So when we just talk about the container orchestration platform, in Applications Manager, we support Docker, Kubernetes, and OpenShift. And why the container monitoring is important. So obviously we know like for better scalability and for cost wise and for the security, we are started adapting to the container based applications. And so these are all the few set of KPIs that by default we monitor whenever you add an OpenShift. So this is an example for the OpenShift. So once you just added the OpenShift monitor, you no need to enable any of the metrics. By default, it will collect all the nodes, parts, containers, services, and the jobs which are running on a particular OpenShift. So in case if you want to add a container orchestration monitoring. So you can just click on add new monitor. So the container monitoring will be placed under the virtualization. So under the virtualization, you can see OpenShift, Docker, and Kubernetes here. And if you want to discover the OpenShift monitoring, click on this OpenShift. And here you need to just give a display name for adding a monitor for your reference. And you will be giving the respective host name on which the OpenShift is get deployed. And also, since we'll be using the SSH connection for this, so either if you have the SSH credential, you can use that, or else in case if you are using the public key authentication, you can just select this and give the respective key for authenticating for adding the monitor. So once you just given these details, we have an option here: collect major metrics using REST API. So as we might know, like there will be like when you just talk about the container, there will be several pods and the nodes will get deployed on the container platform. So without any timeout issues or it could not affect the performance of the container. So for those kind of scenarios, to avoid that situation, we have just given the REST API as well. So by default, it will use the OCL command. So we'll be executing the OCL commands on a OpenShift environment to fetch the information. So along with it, will also use the REST API to fetch the huge metrics that have been collected on the OpenShift. So once you just given these options, so we have a filter option here for a to monitor a specific project. So in case there are several projects that deployed under this OpenShift, you can just include or exclude. You can use either any one of these conditions to add the project for the monitoring. So once you just added all this information, you can just perform the test credential to just make sure the connection is in place and verify if all the information is correct. So once it get passed, you can click on add monitor. So once you just clicked on add monitor, so you can just go to the monitors tab. So all the discovered monitors will be present under this monitors tab. So here under the like you can just check uh, OpenShift here. So the monitor get added. So you can just click on this OpenShift. And in the overview page, you can view the complete information of the node projects and the node details here. And if you just go to the each and the individual tab, for example, if you just go to the node tab, it will just give the top 5 nodes based on the CPU usage and the memory usage. And also it will give the complete pod details, like what is the used pod counts, allocated pod counts, pod utilization. So those information can be seen here, and also you can configure the alarms for these attributes. And in the pods tab, you can view the pod and the mapping with the respective project name. And also you can just see the respective pod start time, creation time as well. And also you can see the pod status. So in case currently there are fewer pods are in running state and some are in pending state. In case if there is any failure, we have given the configure option here as well. And in the container tab, you can view the container details, like what is the container image which you have deployed on this particular OpenShift, and the pod name as well, along with the container status. And in the services, it will list down all the services that have been um, added on this particular OpenShift, and also along with the respective ports. And in the jobs tab, you can view the list of jobs that got deployed, and also view the job start time in case along with the completion time. If a particular time, if the job is taking time to get executed, so for those as well, you can use this configure alarm to monitor the respective alerts. So so the feature will be same for the Kubernetes and Docker as well. So by default for OpenShift, we do monitor the OpenShift with the help of OCL command and with the REST API. And for the Kubernetes, we'll be using kubectl command to fetch the information. Let's get to the next topic. So on this particular topic, we'll be discussing how to address the performance issue on your cloud environment. So when we just talk about the performance issues, yes, most probably the main issue that we do face in our infrastructure is the down issue. So down is nothing but like due to like overload of the CPU, the server will goes down. Server or the virtual machine will go down on your environment. So during those scenarios, what we'll be doing, we'll be manually logging into those environment and restart or start the particular virtual machine. So in order to avoid those situations, Applications Manager give a feature that is called Automate Actions. So with the help of these Automate Actions, you can automatically start or stop a particular cloud instances as per your scenario. For example, in case uh, if the CPU is getting high on a particular UAT server, and during that time you want to restart, so you can just map that restart option for that CPU metric. And also in case if it is going down and if you want to start the virtual machine, so you can use the start option. So you can use these automate actions in various scenarios in your environment to avoid the manual work. So this especially will works in case after your business or when you are in a vacation. So during these scenarios, this particular automate actions will help you to overcome all the manual works. And when it comes to the cloud, yes, we need to track the cloud cost periodically. We need to make sure like how much money we are spending towards the cloud. And also we need to set a baseline for when it comes to the monitoring. So whenever the cost is getting high, rather like beyond the baseline which we set, so for those scenarios you need to get alerted. Yes, in Applications Manager, with the help of the billing service from the AWS, you can monitor all your cloud cost based on the respective services as well. Next, like how we can prevent the service outage. So for each and every metric, as I said, we are using, you can use the configure alarm option. And with the help of the configure alarm option, we can create your own threshold profile and set your own condition. So based on a particular condition only, it's going to trigger an alert. Whether it is a critical or warning, every value will set by us. Let me just show that in UI. First, let's discuss on the automate action. So all the actions that are supported in Applications Manager will present under this action tab. So when you just click on this action drop down, you can view the list of actions that we do support, like starting from the email action, SMS action, execute program, trap, or MBIM operation, or in case if you're having a ticketing tool like ServiceNow or managing Service Desk Plus. So you can use this direct integration for creating a ticket, or in case if you are using the cloud. So this particular cloud action only will help us. So if you just click on this cloud action, I'm just giving an example. Since we are discussing the cloud monitoring, I'm just taking this cloud action here. On this particular cloud action, you can just give a display name and you can select the type. So in case if you want to restart the EC2, you can just go with Amazon. In case if you want to start or restart a particular instance of a virtual machine which is hosted under the Azure, you can select Azure and select the respective action type. So once you just select that, you need to select which particular specific VM needs to get restarted or started. So based on that, you need to select this information, and we have just given an option notify after the action execute. So once you just created this action and mapped with the particular attribute, and in worst case, like if a particular action is failed to get executed, so during that time, this with the help of this email action notification, it will tell you that this particular action is getting failed, so that you can just check those issues. So we just given this option for both Azure and Amazon as well. For when it comes to Amazon, you can select the respective EC2 which you want to restart that particular instance. So this is how the automated action works for the cloud environment. And apart from that, we have the Windows Service action, job SQL job action, and so in case if you are having any other third-party ticketing tool, or in case if you want to publish, like if you want to trigger an alert or for a particular events, so those kind of information can be pushed to the other third-party tools with the help of the webhook or the REST API action. So this is an these are the actions that are available in Applications Manager. And now let's check how we can just track the cloud cost. So as I mentioned, under the in Amazon, we do support the billing service. Okay, so if you just go to this billing service, you can view the cost which you spend for each services. So for the Elastic load balancing or the CloudWatch or for the particular database service, how much you are spending, and for the EC2 and for the Elasticsearch. So all the each and every services, it will just show the cost here. So that, for example, if for the EC2, if your team is allocated 45 USD, so you can just set a baseline for it with the help of the configure alarm option. So that if it reach around like 44, you'll be getting a critical alert, so that you can just avoid the spends on this particular respective service. So that you can just shut down the existing EC2 to avoid these kind of scenarios. So with the help of this particular cloud cost monitoring, you can just you can just avoid the major issues based on the spend that we are do on a cloud environment. Now we can just discuss regarding the threshold profile. So um, if you're for the whenever you're just clicking the configure alarm action, so there will be two ways you can do that. You need to create and associate the threshold profile, and then you'll be configuring the actions. So for creating a threshold profile, we do support like three kinds of threshold profiles in Applications Manager. One is static threshold profile. So when you see this, like under the threshold profile, we do support for numeric, string, and float values. So this is a static threshold profile where we'll be giving a static value. For example, in case if you want to monitor a particular CPU on a EC2 instance, so you'll be creating a threshold profile and set a baseline for this for critical, warning, and clear. So you'll be using these three conditions and for the respective values. So once you just given based on the values, it will check and it will trigger an alert. So this is static profile, and we have a feature that is adaptive and anomaly. So what it will do is do here is like, so it will like based on the historical data, based on the previous period values, it will compare, and based on the comparison, if it is greater than the value which you're setting, it will trigger a critical alert. Else, it will create warning or clear alerts. So you can just create your own custom expression as well. So based on previous week or a particular time which you want to select, we have just given option here. So based on this condition, if it violates and if it is greater than 5 or something, the value which you're setting, you'll be getting critical alerts for the respective attribute with the help of the adaptive and the anomaly. So adaptive is nothing but it will do a daily check, and anomaly is for every hour it will, uh, you can just check the comparison and trigger an alert. And the one more threshold type, that is machine learning. So when I just, you can just with the help of the configure alarm, I'm just going to the monitor type, that is Azure Virtual Machine. So under this particular virtual machine, I'm going to use my machine learning threshold profile. So based on the CPU utilization, for CPU utilization, I'm just clicking on associate here. So once I just click this, sorry, opening the page here. So here, once you just clicked on this threshold profile for CPU utilization. So if in case if you have created a static threshold profile, then you can just go with it. Else, go with the machine learning. So with the help of the machine learning, you'll be getting an alert whenever there is a sudden spike happening on your respective attribute. For example, from morning, if a CPU remains constant at 25 to 30, and suddenly if it rise to around 90 percentage. So during these particular sudden spike, this particular machine learning will be enabled for this attribute and it will trigger an alert. So no need to set a baseline or no need to compare with the historical data. It will check with the it will check the current data. In case if there is any sudden spike, it will trigger an alert. So for that, like you need to click on this configure alarm actions. So here it will list down all the actions which you have created, and you need to map to this and save this. So once this is saved, so whenever there is a sudden spike, you'll be getting an alert for the respective attribute. This is how the we do monitor. Like you can use this threshold profile for monitoring. And so we are the fault management is done. Now, when you just talk about the reporting, so by default, same like the server monitoring or the database monitoring. So for each and every cloud applications for a specific attribute, you can generate the report. So for example, in case if you want to view like uh, for example, number of calls when it comes to the Office 365 Teams. So here you can monitor the number of calls that have been received on a particular Teams application per day. And based on, in case if you want to view the historical data, you can view all those information here. And so this is how the normal reporting which you'll be generating. And we have a feature here that is especially that is called a capacity planning report. So with the help of this capacity planning report, you can plan and add or remove the resources accordingly. So when we just talk about this capacity planning report, let's take the Azure Virtual Machine. So there will be three different types will be there: undersized, oversized, and ideal servers. So when it comes to undersized, let's take like in this particular VM, only 4 GB RAM is configured, and there are three applications posted. In that case, like the CPU utilization will always constant on the 100 percentage. So that is those servers, those virtual machines are called undersized. And when it comes to the oversized, let's take an example: 32 GB of CPU memory has been allocated for a particular VM, and there is only one application that has been hosted, and that application also is rarely used. And for past 30 days, the CPU remains on 2 to 5 percentage. So in this particular VM, like huge memory is not needed, right? So those servers are called oversized. And in case if the server is not used for a longer period, those virtual machines will be categorized into the idle virtual machines. So if I just go to the undersized virtual machine, you can view all the virtual machines on this based on the condition you set. So right now there is only one virtual machine in my Azure environment. So currently it is not oversized, so it is not undersized. So everything seems to be normal here. And also you can just change the value. So here based on the uh, CPU on the memory condition I'm set here. If it is constantly, if it is greater than 50 percentage, it will trigger an alert. So you can just create a own condition and generate these capacity reports. And this particular capacity report will help your management to decide whether, in case if you want to add a additional resource to a cloud environment. So this is how the capacity planning will works here. let's have a quick recap. So the first topic we have discussed regarding the cloud applications. So under the cloud applications, we have discussed how the applications manager monitors AWS and Azure environment, and also the Office 365 in, type as well. And in the second topic, we have discussed regarding the serverless end-to-end monitoring, that is the APM Insight along with the AWS Lambda feature. And in the third topic, we have discussed regarding the container orchestration platform. In this, we have discussed regarding the default KPIs that we do monitor for the OpenShift and Kubernetes. And in the last topic, that is like how to pinpoint the performance bottlenecks in a cloud environment. So in this, we have discussed regarding the cloud cost management and the threshold profile and the automate actions. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time for this training series.